What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California. This is Reefer Revolution Live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state.
I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely.
You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Well, for whatever reason, the good people of Florida are getting their smokable medical cannabis back. And with no home grow, New Jersey takes the lead in legalization/tyranny over New York in the recreational race. New York City might have to keep calling their guy for a little while longer as Cuomo gets pushback over social equity and any laws. And social equity is in the cannabis industry is all over the op-eds. And South by Southwest keynotes cannabis speaker John Boehner and MedMen CEO face protesters with the message, just say no to corporate cannabis, fund cannabis equity, and expunge cannabis convictions.
I'm all in. This is the time to go all in on cannabis.
It is. The people over at Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network, are all in.
35 years ago, they did studies on epilepsy and how cannabis affected epilepsy. And they were positive results. But nobody wanted to touch doing the trials. So we've gone 35 years of people suffering and dying because of how effective their propaganda and prohibition was on this plant.
What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm Dave Conan, coming to you live from high atop the hippie enclave of Mount Washington in Los Angeles, California, with Reefer Revolution Live, the show where we spark up. Holy moly. Spark up.
Here.
I've got, oh, hey, awesome. Spark up. Talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures. Woo! And when I say we, of course, you know that hand that poked in from outside the realm. Wait, I have to adjust your camera a little bit here. You're a little top-heavy in my shot. I'm going to fix you, though.
I may have scooched up in the interim since you moved.
We're also trying to hide an air conditioner because all of a sudden it's summer in Los Angeles again, folks. Yeah. And there's Coach Chella's, of course, of who I speak.
Hi.
What's up, everybody?
Hi, everybody.
Make sure we're hearing Chela. We had some sound issues. I did a little South Park repair where you turn it off and then turn it back on again, and everything works fine. So I think I've got that worked out. We were hearing music before the show, and I think we heard that clip from the wonderful documentary that is needs more viewing, quite frankly. Mary Jane's The Women of Weed. And that has been making the rounds in a lot of festivals, winning some awards, lots of selections, screenings happening. At least last year, we need to have more about the women in the cannabis industry. It was all Kickstarter funded, so
that's exciting.
Little clips of it come out every once in a while. So
I think we should organize a screening in our community.
I think we should. I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think we should.
I bogarted your joint.
It's okay, babe. I got more. You rolled these joints, so it's all good.
Well, this one is we're smoking. This one is a little Harlequin Tsunami, a little high CBD.
Is that what you made for me?
I did.
Oh, you're the best.
I rolled you some Harlequin Tsunami, high CBD strain flower.
I love it.
With a little hash,
little
keef
sprinkle,
keef on top, full flavor, full flower keef. And then the other, I'm gonna spark one up now. I have a little purple
punch,
purple punch. It's been I have a look. I can show a little bit of it. It's the green. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Who's in the chat? Who's jumping in? I saw Laura P. I saw Blaster Master, Barbara Heth, Happy Guy. Holy Cannabis Oil's in the house.
Cannabis Sativa.
Hey, thanks for that article, I sent you an article. Thanks for your response, sir, Holy Cannabis Oil, about Moroccan cannabis and the history. It's pretty cool. We are smoking some
MDN Niles. We got some new folks in the chat as well.
Awesome, guys.
This is somebody who just discovered us last week.
Fantastic. Welcome,
Dylan
new viewers
Christ.
all. And
DK Gaming, GoPro 64.
Gypsy Lady Lee is in there.
Yes.
MDN Niles, Jocelyn Russell.
Janice Williams.
First in Janice
Aileen
Williams.
Aileen Sirocco.
That's a new name. I think that's
Welcome.
a new name.
I hope you stayed with us, Aileen. We didn't chase you away with the
Come on back.
with the tardy starting. We started on time, and we started
usually
at 4:20.
we have 20 minutes of great YouTube free music.
Right, but
to
it
avoid
didn't happen
copyright
today.
violation. And it
All
was
good
when I
stuff.
found out it was quiet, so hopefully the dead air didn't scare people away. But
That's right.
welcome all for jumping in the chat. We do have a lively chat during the show. Thank you. This is Reefer Revolution Live. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. This is a recreational and medical cannabis show. When you recreate, you medicate. And we are originating from the great state of California. So if you're under the age of consent in your state, please go with your parents because they'll learn something too about medical cannabis and all forms of cannabis. Lots of stuff in the news today, guys. Subscribe, get notifications. Chela, you were going to make a comment. I interrupted you.
No.
But your Canatonic is working good too.
Yes.
Yes.
So I did a little Canatonic FICO.
Fascinating. Because that's a high CBD as well.
It is. It's a high CBD. It's balanced. There is THC in it as well. There's a lot going on. There's a whole lot going on in the world. And so I need a little extra today. Just a little extra. So I took a little tiny bit of FICO on the end of a toothpick to just sort of even things out.
Very nice.
So yeah. Awesome.
I actually enjoy the high CBD flower as well.
Yes, I'm so glad that you do.
It's a nice break.
Yeah, well, I never thought that we would, but apparently we do. So it's good to try new things, guys.
We always like in the early days, OPP, other people's pot, was always the best. And it still, I think, really is to this day. But guys, we are multi-streaming, of course, folks. We're going out over Periscope. I think we're back up on Facebook again. We weren't down. I just wasn't streaming over there because it was, I hate Facebook. Sorry, Facebook. Facebook fiend. Sorry. Plus the chat doesn't work in my thing, so that makes me angry. I'm also streaming out over on DLive for the decentralized blockchain Lino network. They provide a great streaming platform over there, which in case all the corporate ones shut us down, we'll end up over there. As well as probably Twitch, although Twitch is owned by Facebook too, right? Google? No. Somebody owns Twitch.
Somebody bad.
Somebody owns Twitch. I forget who it was. Bezos? Is it Bezos?
Maybe
Amazon?
Bezos.
I don't know. They all own everything.
Hopefully that'll get broken up.
It's like MedMen, buying up all of the small cannabis businesses.
Yeah.
Like Lowell Smokes and others, I'm sure, on the chopping or the acquisition block. Vulture capitalism in corporate cannabis, essentially. It's unfortunate. So folks are saying what they're smoking, where they're at, which is great. Welcome everybody, new viewers, original viewers. We welcome you all. Thanks to all of our patrons. I'll drop the link in the chat, but it's up in the channel. If you do want to become a monthly patron, as Laura P has, and Believer, and Holy Cannabis Oil, and anybody I missed in the chat that is a patron, I thank you for your monthly support, and also Streamlabs. Because, of course, YouTube won't let us monetize anything with regards to Cannabi, nor Facebook will let us advertise, promote, or anything. And that's really what the best thing you can do for us is help get the algorithm to notice us and get people to come to the show on Sundays and whenever we do special cannabis broadcasts during the week. And join us here on Sunday because we have been called one of the best cannabis news shows out there. And I will agree. With our blunt commentary on marijuana,
we certainly have fun, that's for sure.
Hey, listen, we do get a lot of views. We get a lot of views for our afterburn too. So folks like to see us aggregating the cannabis news around the country.
Well, we'll never be able to make
so
money on that though because it's technically
right.
Copyright infringement, even though it is totally fair use.
Well, and I don't necessarily want to make money on their work. I just want to get the information out and educate, which is really what we're trying to do. So that's really what our patrons are talking about and doing, and we're trying to figure out more ways to help out, to give more to a little bit more to our patrons. And you can become a patron for $1, as little as $1, as you know, in the Patreon world. So we thank you all though for being here. That's really the best. And of course, we are talking about a lot of news in the cannabis space this week. as we get into... I reopened, so which means I have to refine my windows, but at least the... fill this time, will you, babe? I have to find a couple more windows.
Oh, sure, yeah. So this week was a big week in the cannabis news, as it always is. Lots of things coming and going and yesing and knowing, as they do. It's true. I found a number of stories to be very interesting, and I love finding the thread that connects all of them. And really, the social equity thread is one that is really making the rounds.
It's big. It's huge this week, actually.
It's blossoming, that's for sure.
And we're talking about basically our show, Reefer Revolution Live, is a discussion. The first hour is a discussion of the Cannabis Chronicle over at DC420LA.com.
Uh-oh.
I'll find that.
It's down there. I think it's my dad.
Oh, if it's an incoming call from Europe. Out of the area. Better answer that.
It is. It's him.
Turn off your mic.
Hi, Dad.
We'll put him on speaker. That should be fun. But yes, we are... Oh, stand by. Oh, she turned off her mic. We just missed Dad's birthday. It is the Ides of March. Chela Fiorini's dad, Marco Fiorini, was born. He's calling from Rome. Put him on speaker if you want. Otherwise, she's just gonna listen. She's just gonna listen. Live television, folks. Live television. Of course, we are talking about a Cannabis Chronicle over at DC420LA.com. And you can get the newsletter. It comes out Sunday morning. It's a nice read Sunday morning. And that's basically the news we talk about for the first hour here on Reefer Revolution Live. All the hot news in America and the world, really. Stuff going on everywhere. And some of the stories that popped out, of course, this week. Alaska becomes the first state to officially legalize consumption, on-site consumption. Where you buy it, you can smoke it, which is pretty cool. So Alaska leading the way in a lot of progressive things that I've found lately, which is quite interesting, and freedom. A lot of freedom up there in Alaska. Also, Supreme Court says you can give the cops the finger. You're free to do that. That granny might be okay. Pretty much anybody else is going to, I'd say, get pulled over for some reason, or for whatever reason. You're going to find a reason to detain you and beat you if you flip off a cop. But you will be held up in the Supreme Court. So that's good news.
You'll be arrested.
Yes, be arrested.
They'll be hassling you. Sorry, Dad, we're doing our show right now.
Dad's talking away. There it is, Alaska.
Doing
first
our
state
show.
to license on-site marijuana consumption over at Marijuana Moment. Thanks, Tom Angel. Chris Roberts writing a new voice over there at.
Wait, hang on 1 second. Let me put you on speaker, Dad.
Okay. Turn your mic on.
Breaking from Italy.
Turn your mic on.
My mic is on.
Okay.
Breaking news from Italy, Dad. What's going
broadcast.
Well, hello, USA. All I've got to say is that here in Europe, although explicitly, they now have what is known as pseudo shops that advertise in the greatest of Madison Avenue fort the cannabis as wonder, and they have a whole franchising going on. It's like a big push of somebody. And the reason why I walked in and asked, I said, excuse me, but what is the content? And I thought there was law against this. And they said, no. The law states explicitly that the THC, the cannabis, within the cannabis, has to be under, or, there's a limit.
Yeah, within what?
There's a limit to what we classify as Class A drugs. Okay?
Yeah.
I think it's 0.5.
So long as they can harvest their buds at a point degree below the limit, they're okay. But there's no efficacy in it. It's just a big fazoo.
That's not true. Did you try any? Not really. I recognized that when I saw on their very Madison Avenue shops
with all the bells and the whistles and the whatnot. I said, all right, there's a big fazoo. Let me go in and check, and this is the information that the kids who were kind of running it for someone. And I said, who's behind all this? Who's the boss? I'd like to talk to the boss. And they said, well, we just work for this guy. It's all very nebulous, but what it is a billion-dollar industry that has nothing of any therapeutic or mind-expanding, logical clearance of vision, consciousness.
Well, dude, with all due respect, Dave and I were just discussing high CBD cannabis. And the joint that I am currently smoking, or about to fire up, the joint that I'm currently smoking is a joint that is very high in CBD and low in THC also. So I think that you should give it a try and smoke that instead of tobacco.
Ask them, what is the CBD content?
Well, it should be very high.
And how's it measured? In Fahrenheit, centigrade?
It might.
How's it measured?
Milligrams of in each joint.
It should be in milligrams, and they should be able to tell you how much CBD and how much THC is in it, and it's probably under 0.3. But anyway, Dad, I love you so much. Can you join us on YouTube?
Hey, sweet.
We're on live YouTube.
Okay, cool. Ciao.
I love you, Radhaswamy. Call me tomorrow.
Hey, there's always a bon moment.
All right. Are you trucking?
Excuse me?
You're doing well, right? I know you are.
Sweetheart, I'm connected with the mystery. How could I do badly?
Of course.
God bless you.
Radhaswamy, Dad. Ciao.
Swami to you. Ciao, guys. Ciao, baby.
Milligrams per gram, yeah. Okay. I just hung up on him. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
anyway,
you gotta. It's
it needs to be done. Sorry, Dad.
Well, we're talking about maybe going to visit your dad in Rome. So
it's true. We are.
A welcome surprise there.
Yeah, it's true. Always a welcome surprise.
You'll find Mark as the Cardinal Baggia. Cardinal Baggia in Angels and Demons, also known as the Water Cardinal. He does a lot of work in Rome, but he did that here in the States, which Lisa, Chela's mom, got him the audition.
It's true.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Both actors, and that's how they met. Pop's calling in. Oh, he hates that. He hates when I call him Pop.
He's 78 and he's, amazing, and he stands on his head and he's fantastic and great. And
yeah, he looks like Gollum, but he's going to outlive us all.
Yeah, totally. He absolutely is. Anyway, you were saying, the last thing I heard was Alaska.
The last thing you heard, yeah, he is cool, Bonnie Lee. He's pretty cool. Jimmy Dore joining the show. Is that really Jimmy Dore joining the show on Periscope?
Cool. Hi, Jimmy Dore.
Well, if it is, hi, Jimmy Dore. Welcome.
Hi, Pax Abel. And Slow News Day, welcome. Hi.
Jimmy, we were just talking about how Alaska has become the first state to legalize, or rather license, on-site marijuana consumption in cannabis stores. So that's pretty exciting. We are going through the headlines.
That's pretty cool.
Of the Cannabis Chronicle before that call-in of Maurizio, and that it is now protected. It's official. You can give the cops a finger, protected by the Constitution.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that. I carry cannabis in the trunk. I don't want to be flipping off cops. I want to have as little interaction with cops as possible. And
they love it when you say, I don't discuss my day.
Yeah.
So
I bet you anything they would be really unhappy. Excuse me, when I said that.
But it is now protected for free speech. So that's good news. We got some cannabis up on the Hill this week. Bills, of course, making their way through, but the Treasury Secretary had to field some questions about cannabis and cannabis tax. And basically he said, it's not my job to give guidance on what the Congress should do. Let's just take a quick listen to this clip.
I just want to get your viewpoints too. Do you think it's fair that we have business expense deduction for legitimate businesses, but on the cannabis business, they're not allowed to have business expensing?
Let me just comment that this is a very complicated issue that impacts lots of things where there is a conflict between federal law and state law. And whether it's me putting on my IRS hat where we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash coming in, this issue needs to be resolved one way or another because there are conflicts in so many regulations and rules and everything else. However it's resolved, you've just described one of many, many, many complicated issues.
And so you would like to see that resolved?
Again, I just encourage there's lots of issues that we can't give guidance on or can't change from Treasury without dealing with the conflict.
Well, I think, to me, it's an injustice that there is a business that isn't treated like other businesses when a state decides that that is a true business. But we'll get on to other things. The low income.
I would love to know where this was.
We'll wait on that video. Wearing the hat of the head of the IRS department over there saying, Congress, you better do something about this and fix it. And that apparently is one of the things at the top of the list of corporate cannabis to get changed because Acreage Holdings, they want their tax deductions on their increasing income. And John Boehner was going to want his, he's all in. He's all in on cannabis. And he's going to want his tax
stand that Mnuchin, but man, I do agree with him on that.
Well, he does. He also wears a movie producer hat. And
I can't stand him doubly so.
He did, of course, produce Our Brand is Crisis.
Yeah, do you guys know that movie?
Which is a curious
If you don't know that movie, you should check out that movie. It's kind of foreshadowy.
Yeah.
In a funny way.
Indeed. Moving on in the news, still up on the Hill, the only pharmacist. We have one pharmacist up on the Hill.
Oh, I don't like this guy either, but man.
He doesn't believe in recreational cannabis. Well, let's listen to what he has to say about how the DEA is failing the country, failing Americans by keeping cannabis on Schedule 1. So let's see what even
the super conservative guy,
this prohibitionist, has to say.
Here's the point I want to make. In full disclosure, I am absolutely, adamantly opposed to the recreational use of marijuana. Currently, I'm the only pharmacist serving in Congress, and I will tell you, I consider it to be nothing more than a gateway drug. I'm sorry, that's just my feeling. If that offends you, then that's something you just have to deal with. But let me tell you, right now, marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug. That means that it's for investigational use only. It cannot have research done on it. The DEA is failing the American public here by not letting research take place on marijuana. I would hope that MAD will address that. We had an attorney general who was going to address this, who was going to say that we have a federal law that prohibits marijuana use, yet we have states going out legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. But we never, that attorney general is gone now. So it's not being addressed. This is something that needs to be addressed by the DEA. Currently, I'm writing an op-ed right now in conjunction with one of my Democratic colleagues, Representative Earl Blumenthal, about the need for research in the medical marijuana. Now, that's a whole different subject than the recreational marijuana. But we need to have the ability to do research. If we could do research on marijuana, we would have the ability to detect and maybe provide some of these and create some of these devices that would check this. So I hope that would be something that MAD would address and something that MAD will work on and help us with.
So Representative Carter wants the research so he can come up with this magic cannabis impairment box that cops can drive around with and determine people are impaired by cannabis. And that's essentially what the guy who developed the alcohol box that he was talking to said. There's no way to do it with cannabis. We can tell that it's there. We just can't tell if it's impairing somebody. And this whole fazool that these states are crying every time they try to legalize in the state. New York's doing it right now. The cops are like, we gotta train a bunch of drug special cops that are drug recognition experts that can tell if you're impaired. It's the same impairment.
Aren't all cops trained to tell if you're impaired?
If you need impairment specialists, then you're not getting drunk drivers off the road very well, because that's the same thing you're looking for. It's impairment driving. It's not whether there's THC in their blood.
I don't think it's actually called drunk driving. I think it's called DUI, right?
Yes.
Driving while DWI, driving while intoxicated,
or driving under the influence, and DUI, driving under the influence. I don't know.
Think
there's
DWI.
There's different names.
But it isn't intoxicated. It's about being impaired.
Right. Exactly. So yes, let's get some more research. And your magic marijuana impairment box is never going to make it. It's never going to happen. Meanwhile, what we are talking about, and we're going to get into this the bulk of the rest of the hour, but talking about social equity just taken off in the media this week. A lot of stories in the Chronicle about programs and plans. And last week we had the LA City Council we broadcast live here with the commentary on the Phase 3 in Los Angeles moving forward, not funding the social equity program with $10 million that was supposed to be funded before the Phase 3 gets started. Gee, what's going on there? Why are the social equity licensees and applicants not getting what they need before outside interests and more corporate cannabis are coming in? Well, here's one reason. Apparently, the LAPD is broke, and they need that marijuana money. This came through thanks to Amanda Chicago Lewis. Yikes. Apparently, this LA City Council Pres staffer told activists that instead of funding the program that will offer cannabis biz licenses to the communities most harmed by the war on drugs, they have to fund the LAPD. Is there a better metaphor for how this city operates?
Right.
And referring to this text, apparently, I have not been able to find another verification of the source book. Westcall just told us that $10 million they set aside for social equity this year had to go cover LAPD's citywide overtime overruns of $80 million.
How's that even kosher? How can you use that money that was earmarked for one thing for another thing?
Yeah, I don't know if they're,
I don't get that.
If they're just saying, hey, the money in the general fund is going for this overrun. There's therefore a lot of programs aren't being funded, or it was specifically that they're saying take this $10 million and give it to the cops to help pay their bill. So we'll have to keep an eye on that story and see if it develops. But there's a good reason why they're not getting the money over there. And here's some of the stories now that are coming up in the mainstream media about just this topic. About expungement, about making victims whole before companies profit.
And tying legalization to social change.
Right.
They're tying it together. That's where it really needs to go, and it's not quite there yet.
Well, they're sure, people are sure talking about it. I don't know how much it's gonna help, but this story in Think on NBC, marijuana legalization must make war on drugs victims whole before companies profit. For Amazon-owned Whole Foods, everybody's talking about Bezos buds coming into Whole Foods, to get the right to sell a single pot brownie, every nonviolent marijuana-related conviction must be thrown out. Hear, hear. And that is, who's writing over there? He's a...
Simon Moya Smith.
He's a native activist, a native journalist.
Journalist, yeah.
Indigenous journalist, Simon Moya Smith. So getting a voice over there this week at Think. Yes, Think, people. This has to happen. This is what Yang wants to do, by the way. Yang said that when he's elected president, he will basically pardon all nonviolent, low-level drug offenses on 4/20/21. So a little bit of marketing for the entrepreneur going there as well.
It seems to be working for him.
It does indeed. New York Times, we can talk about that in the afterburn. New York Times, you were talking about this article. It's black lawmakers to block legalized marijuana in New York if their communities don't benefit. We talked about how New Jersey and New York, the recreational race is on. New Jersey is ahead because it looks like New York is stalled with a very important issue.
Well, they're totally trying to tie legalization directly to an economic equity program, and nobody else is doing that. They're looking around going, hey, everybody else has really screwed this up.
Right.
They're looking at LA, the second biggest market, second to New York, and seeing how hard it is to get equity funded. And they're absolutely right. New York is not going to suffer. People who really want cannabis in New York, or even kind of want cannabis in New York, can get cannabis in New York. So I think lawmakers are absolutely 100% right on. And I'm going to send them a nice note from California to say, hold to your convictions, because really, they're totally right on. That's my op-ed.
That's Chela's toke.
That's my toke on the whole thing.
So yeah, there was another number of stories, just briefly, on the headline page here over at DC420LA.com, a Cannabis Chronicle. Just a rundown. Legal, illegal, some players still work both sides of state marijuana industry. That's the OC Register. We see that in Canada and here, obviously, Boehner. Changing the face of cannabis ownership, a 6-point plan for black equity in the industry. That's the root. Opinion, marijuana convictions must be expunged before companies profit. We said that's NBC News. Minority Cannabis Business Association releases model for municipal, the full headline, social equity ordinance for nationwide adoption. Expunge small-time pot conviction if it's legalized. That's Chicago Sun-Times. The article we just spoke of. So we have a number of mainstream media sources picking up this good narrative that looking at what's going on, we need to make sure this is at the top of our discussion as recreationals going forward. We've already seen MedMen come into New York and secretly tell them, say, here's your law, no home grow. And apparently that's what's going on in New Jersey. Now they're talking about, even though it's moving forward and it looks like it's going to get voted on and it's going to happen, no home grow.
Well, MedMen made Cuomo really understand that by donating $600,000 to his campaign.
Right.
So of course there's no home grow in his proposal. But don't worry, the assembly members are fighting back with their own bill. So I'm not worried about New York. I'm really not.
So we will see who gets it first. Doesn't look like it's going to be in the budget for New York this month, this year, this time. And New Jersey is going to pass something. And hopefully there will be a home grow allocation. New Hampshire just did home grow for medical patients. 3 plants. Hope you don't have cancer. Because you're going to have to grow Volkswagen-sized plants to get enough oil.
Yeah.
So that's kind of silly. But moving on to Boehner. Boehner in the news again this week.
Yeah.
With his appearance. Now,
South by Southwest?
I think South by Southwest is still going on. Is it right? I don't know. Or maybe it's done. I don't know.
I think maybe Friday, maybe it was the last day. Anyway, I don't know.
It was,
I'm not tied in enough to that.
What I saw was a melange of neoliberal ideas. A lot of the stuff that got us into this mess in the first place. I saw a couple of progressive heads pop their heads up. And for the first time ever, they basically put a cannabis slate on the discussion panel, or as part of South by Southwest. I've never gone, so I'm not really familiar with it. But
because we won't go to Texas to spend money there because of a lot of reasons. No offense, Texas, but that's just what it is.
Good point. But it became a really big part of this South by Southwest. There were a lot of panels and discussion about the industry and
the social justice aspect of the industry and how equity is getting screwed. And the keynote speakers...
Were there panels actually on that topic?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Felicia Carvajal was talking, so I'm sure she was talking about social equity.
At
South by Southwest.
At South by Southwest.
Yes,
on a panel.
On a panel.
Where's that video?
I don't know.
Oh,
I looked for pictures. It. No, I heard a report that was happening.
And that's another thing. They haven't put up any cannabis panel videos yet on the website.
Well, there was a big flap about it. There was a big flap about it. Because,
certainly was.
Yes, as you see. There was a big flap. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's...
so John Boehner was protested.
He is the keynote speaker.
Yeah. Pretty tone-deaf, South by Southwest. And so was Adam Bierman.
Of MedMed.
Another keynote speaker.
Right.
Also super duper tone-deaf. God. Kind of amazing.
And that's and we have in the news, we have CNBC interview. We're going to play that in the afterburn. But he was Boehner and the CEO of Acreage, Kevin Murphy, the largest American cannabis company dominating now in the Northeast. This Acreage Holding is dominating in the Northeast. And they have some very interesting to say on CNBC. I will play in the afterburn for you know why. But essentially, there was a small, I would say, protest. Some banners say no to corporate cannabis. Some banner waving. A little bit of the hashtag was SXW Weed.
South by South
Weed. Didn't see a whole lot of action. Ministry of Hemp was tweeting about it.
Well, I think so many people, white people especially, are super excited about cannabis being legal and just the talk about it, just being able to talk about it.
It's titillating.
It's titillating. It's exciting. Everybody knows everybody's been using it anyway for a million years, so now we can start talking about it. But, the fact is that it's still out of reach for most people.
And most people have to hide it, even in legal states.
Yeah.
It's, people in New York City are just going to have to keep, calling their guy until they can walk into a shop, and they will keep doing that, and white people won't be arrested, and people of color will be arrested, or fined, or whatever they're doing now in New York.
There was a story in New York
lowering their bar.
You know what?
Still stop people.
I didn't tell you this before. You're gonna kick my ass.
Really?
I think I may have sent it to you. It was a story of a kid on Instagram who was smoking a blunt, talking to reporters in front of his Fifth Avenue house. One of his parents are caught up in the whole, college scandal thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Did I not send it to you?
You didn't mention it to me.
I thought I read it this week.
Did you send it to me on Facebook?
I thought I read it this week. I'm sorry.
Did you put it in on the... Anyway.
Never mind. So I read this article this week about this kid, privileged super kid rapper, white rapper.
I do remember you talking
who was smoking a blunt out in front of his penthouse apartment that he's living in. His sister was bribed into some college. And he's like, whatever, people need to get over it. As he's smoking a blunt, being photographed, no problem. That story talked about how you and me walk around, no problem, smoking cannabis, anywhere smokers smoke. And, black and brown people are still hiding their cannabis in their edibles for the most part. And I thought that was really a good story in the mainstream media because it's true. And most people of privilege don't notice that. And so that it was in a pretty mainstreamy place. Anyway. So I think that
we'll find it. I'll find the article.
I'm glad that the mainstream media is starting to pick up on all of these things, and that people are starting to talk about it in small groups and amongst them friends and areas where you don't usually hear about it.
Oakland is doing it right. It seems like, and
but retroactively,
right?
That's why rah-rah New York.
So San Francisco just used an algorithm, a magic algorithm, and expunged 9,000 cases.
Yep.
Los Angeles should be doing that, but our DA, Jackie Lacey, has got to go. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
Not the least of not.
I need
That's
to spark
not the.
up with that one.
She also doesn't prosecute killer cops, but that's a whole other thing. This is a cannabis news show. We don't talk about that other stuff.
That's another thing. Yeah, so that could be easily done in Los Angeles, and that would be an amazing move. Easily, well, it could be easily done. It's an algorithm. If people can be suppressed on YouTube and other places, we can. And San Francisco did it like that.
Yep.
What's the organization?
Show that it could be done. Code for America?
Code for America.
Mm-hmm.
Code for America is doing it across the country for cities for free.
Yeah.
So Los Angeles, get it together. Get it together.
Yeah.
So let's continue on. What have we been talking about? Moving through the news. Oh, yes, we were at South by Southwest. The protesters. A little story here in.
Is anybody in Texas? Anybody watching from Texas?
Mary Magazine. South by Southwest protest against John Boehner, corporate cannabis, and others.
Right.
They are in protest of those profiting off of cannabis without an intention. We're going to make this bigger. Make that bigger or put on your glasses, Dave. Those profiting off of cannabis without an intentional plan to repair and make whole individuals, families, and communities that have been devastated by the war on drugs. Those profiting off of cannabis who once participated in prohibition, and those who would profit before freeing all cannabis prisoners and vacating all cannabis convictions, calling for 10% of companies' annual revenue to be reinvested in communities disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. That is not much and not a bad ask, actually. I mean, it's that's an easy ask. And a new paradigm of social responsibility in the cannabis industry and public policies that create an equitable, just, and reparative industry. So I think those are great asks. It needs to continue to be on the forefront of this rush to quote legalization. Another word for tyranny and overtax and overregulation. For the money, the marijuana money. Everybody wants the marijuana money. In the afterburn, you're going to see that John Boehner and friends think that we've got less than a year before this all happens. And here's another warning to my progressive friends. Because, all the cannabis people, all the Democrats, some of them, they think there's two outliers that don't support legalization now.
Yeah.
Hickenlooper. Who is it? Frackenlooper. Yeah, Frackenlooper. He does.
And Klobuchar.
Right. Klobuchar.
She needs to go. You guys.
Maduro
ridiculous.
Is a dictator.
Making us all look bad.
Needs to go. So she's for regime change.
I say regime change her.
Yeah.
Get out.
We digress.
Anyway, sorry. It's another show.
We digress.
Totally.
What were we saying? Boehner. So, and the protest. So Boehner's there, and he's in the afterburn. And just quickly to show you why Boehner's there, they are the largest. Acreage is the largest American cannabis company, vertically integrated medical cannabis at this point. Acreage Holdings' fourth quarter revenue increases 380% as company enters California. So Boehner has got a boner and is entering California. 380%. That's why they are talking about the tax laws are going to get changed quickly-ish. And
quick for government.
And probably the States Act is going to move.
That's a pretty safe bet.
And it's going to happen this year or early next year. And they talk about that in the Afterburn on CNBC. And we're going to have that video. So make sure you do stay tuned for the Afterburn as we move into... let's see, I think there was one other thing I wanted to... Oh, here's the tweet from Acreage Holding. Speaker Boehner and Murphy joined Squawk on the Street for an exclusive interview live from South by Southwest. You can see we're going to show part of this video later on. So Acreage Holding on the march, 380% increase in the fourth quarter.
Just say no to vertical integration, Cannabis Sativa says.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Trying to keep a hold on that. Don't know how successful we're going to be. MedMen wants to basically have 90% of their products in their stores be brands that they own or make. So they bought, a HR person told me that at a cannabis job fair at UCLA. And he said, yeah, right now it's 10%. We're going to go for 90%. That's the goal. And within 6 months, they bought Lowell Smokes. And a lot of these small brands actually want to sell. They want to establish themselves, become popular, get some influencers behind them, and then sell to some big company. And that's sort of the trajectory a lot of these companies are on. Some of the ones that are forming co-ops and getting involved in co-ops and laws that are now in California coming forward, a lot of laws coming through, a lot of activities, a lot of actions happening around laws in California, but one of which is to help the small cannabis business here in California get a foothold against these large corporate behemoths coming through.
Know your grower. Buy local.
Yeah.
You know the things.
Support organic, outdoor-grown cannabis. Ask the questions at the dispensary. The market will prevail.
Yep.
Craft cannabis will survive if we ask for it. If we ask for these things in the dispensaries, if we're making sure that the good stuff is being good, and the good companies that are investing in social equity, because there are cannabis companies that are doing it, and there needs to be more. But we need to support those companies. So those are questions that we can ask in the dispensary, and that'll make your dispensary people learn. If they don't know, they're going to find out. I asked about, once in Colorado, I asked something about terpenes or something, or what's the profile, and they were like, what? So, let's help educate our bud tenders, and they're getting better. Like, Cornerstone Research Collective.
We only go to find places like Cornerstone now.
Anyways,
It's important to find the good collectives in your community. In LA, we're very lucky because there are 175 regulated shops and, a number of other outlets. So you have many, many choices in LA. Other places, obviously, you have fewer choices, but it's always good to know your source, always know your grower. If you're new to the cannabis space, that's pretty much universal.
Rave clubs. I still am dealing with Arkansas politicians blocking access and constitutional amendments on the ballot. They are crooked. Yes, all the politicians across the country are trying to derail cannabis laws voted on by the people in every state. Missouri, you're seeing it. Michigan, you're seeing it. They went after home grow in Michigan, which is, probably other than Alaska. I mean, they're, the bannings of localities continues to happen across New York, preempting, counties and localities in New York are preempting. We've lost our audio, RBU. I don't know if it's you. Can everybody else hear it? Is it us? I see something going through. Watch. Wait me do this.
Oh, yeah?
Happening across New York. Oh, you're there. We're there.
Okay.
And Jocelyn is. So maybe reboot. Of course, he can't hear me. So try something, RBU. Tell him in the chat. Everybody else can hear. Continuing. Thank you for that, Rave Club. Yes, Arkansas.
Rave Club, are you Cannabis for Dementia person? Because cannabis helps dementia.
Cannabis helps dementia?
It does. It totally does.
Cannabis. Let's see. Cannabis Sativa. I've been following AR. Those crooked politicians. So sad that they have undermined the will of the people.
Yep.
Heard recent restrictions on edibles. Yes, it's a big game. It's a big game, people, because they got to protect the children and their monopoly into private prisons.
Right. And their interest in big pharma and other things. Cannabis is a huge disruptor.
Huge disruptor of 3, 4, 5 industries.
But so is public pressure.
Exactly.
So the horse has left the barn, y'all.
The horse has left the barn.
So just keep, writing notes and letters and calling your elected officials, because the more they hear from us, the harder it is for them to ignore us.
Speaking of hearing from us.
Oh, yes.
We weren't quite as successful as the last one with comments. I think, was it a longer period maybe on the last one? Was it months? I don't know. They got 20,000 comments?
No, it was not that long.
But only got 1,938 comments to the FCC.
All right.
I'm sorry, FDA.
In like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think they gave everybody 2 weeks. Yeah, March 1st, and they had to March 14th. So in 2 weeks, we tried to push it a couple weeks. We made some comments. So the comment period is closed, but thank you any of our viewers who went over to the FDA and put in a comment on the International Drug Scheduling Convention on Psychotropic Substances, Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, World Health Organization scheduling recommendations, Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol and its stereoisomers, cannabis resin extracts and tinctures, cannabidiol preparations, and pharmaceutical preparations of cannabis. Request for comments. That gobbledygook was basically to get people to tell them how to tell the WHO to tell the UN how to reschedule, if so, cannabis on a global scale. Because right now, literally the UN and other international agencies within the UN, the WHO, the drug agency in the UN, they're doing battle over cannabis. The WHO says, yeah, we should reschedule it. It's got medical benefits, and we should reschedule this, maybe even deschedule it. And the narcotic guys are, no, wait a minute, you guys are breaking the treaties. All you guys are legalizing, you're breaking the treaties that we have. So the UN was supposed to meet and make a decision. They postponed it. It was delayed because of the U.S. and 2 other countries, Japan, I don't remember what the other one was, but basically the U.S. said, nah, delay it. The U.S. said, do this. We did it. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of months or month or so. Hopefully there'll be more action soon on an international level with regard to scheduling of cannabis, because every country is in it to win it. They're all getting in, from from Lebanon to Thailand, to Israel, to Turkey. They're all getting in it. So they have to do something on an international level. In Canada, of course, Mexico, in North America, the 2 countries that have basically legalized it. Canada, in their own Prohibition 2.0 way. And Mexico is currently now creating their Prohibition 2.0. We'll see how much freedom and liberty they actually give their people now that the Supreme Court has said, yeah, it's legal to elevate your personality under the Constitution of Mexico. You can't stop people from doing that, and that means you can't stop them from growing their own cannabis, smoking it, sharing it, and selling it. So now they have to come up with rules for selling it, and that's what they're currently in the process of doing. And there's actually a story in the Chronicle this week about just that topic. So check it out under the Canada in the World section. So good on you, anybody who went over to the FDA and made comments. We thank you for doing that. And we like to keep you up on all kinds of stuff that's happening in the different states. There's some action in Texas this week we're going to talk about in the Afterburn because we've got some video. California has got some bills happening. SB 34 is something we're definitely watching. We like this one. We like SB 34, right, Chela? If I have not
yes, we do.
Have not gotten them conflated.
Nope, we do like SB 34. We support SB 34. We wish we could be there to support SB 34. I'm going to write notes and call on the day because I can call.
This addresses the tax question.
Yes, this makes compassion come back to California.
Oh, compassion in cannabis. What a novel idea. What a novel idea. Of course, big frown upside down, Jerry's a clown, vetoed or voted or whatever Trump was trying to say. No, he vetoed the bill that basically took away the taxes that groups like Weed for Warriors, when they donated and gave cannabis to a cancer patient or a veteran, in that case, they still had to pay the tax. And a bill said, no, we shouldn't allow them to do that. And it passed overwhelmingly, and it got vetoed because it wasn't within the spirit of Prop 64. And what is the spirit of Prop 64? Tyranny.
Oh, tyranny.
Tax, regulate, corporate cannabis, take over. Prop 64.
Yeah, with no safeguards for equity in the legislation,
and those that are in there completely abused, by the state.
So I think New York is right to drag their feet in legalizing, and quite frankly, other states as well, because there are things that are really screwed up about how we did it and how Colorado did it. So, it's an interesting time in the world, isn't it?
I love it. There's so much, and there's so much cannabis news to pay attention to. It's really hard to pay attention to the other news and like the election and stuff. Although, I'm getting it's like the mafia. Once you think you're out, you suck you back in.
I find it so distasteful, so hopefully I can influence you to keep it off.
Well, we're going to wrap up our first hour here, folks, with the last story and talk about this one a little bit.
Oh, I love this story.
Because we actually, we're going to play the video. Maybe we'll play the video first up in the afterburn. Yeah. But there's a news story about this study out in New York. This in coverage in High Times. Adam Drury writing over there. Study finds medical marijuana alleviates seniors' pain, reduces opioid use. Senior neurology researcher Dr. Laszlo Mechler said a 1:1 THC to CBD ratio was the most effective at treating symptoms and diminishing undesirable side effects for seniors involved in the study. This is a new study. And it's pretty cool, and we are fans.
Rad.
We are fans and aware of the benefit of 1:1.
Yep.
And what's your take on this story? This is your favorite story of the week.
Yeah, I love this story. I read the the original story in the Tribune, but we couldn't show it because we're at our max for the for the month of stories. So we show the High Times, and what was in the Tribune that I don't think High Times got quite straight was that it helped 7 out of 10 people using it, but they all complained of how much it costs. So it's going to be only accessible to people with money, and most seniors don't have a lot of money. So it's not covered by insurance, not covered by Medicare, but it's the best medicine for them. And Dr. Mechler was saying that in a time when 115 people die every day from opioid problems with opioids one way or another, it's a horrible idea to not allow cannabis as an option, because nobody's ever died from medical marijuana.
Ever?
Ever.
It's always the last resort, and it should be the first resort.
Yeah, and it's always the last resort, too.
And of course, cannabis and seniors has been is a big topic of discussion here on this show, Reefer Revolution Live. Subscribe, get notifications for when we do this show every Sunday at 4:20. But of course, our journey. If you watch our show with Mom, which recently ended, but we have many other people that are coming into our life that we continue to. Chela continues to counsel and consult and. Not that she's a doctor.
No, I'm a coach.
But
I know some things.
Doctors don't know anything.
No, I know some things. I've studied some stuff.
They know the talking points of the propagandists.
Yeah.
And they know they need more research. And they've never... The first question you ask a real doctor is how many years of training do they have in the endocannabinoid system?
Yeah, or do they have any?
Do they have any?
Training.
And if their answer is 0 or... I took it for 6 months once. That would be
No, I
better.
took a little class.
They
usually take like a 1-day seminar.
Right. If they don't have continuing education and hadn't had real studying of the endocannabinoid system, they don't know what they're talking about.
They don't. So take it with a grain of salt.
They can't tell you that no, you can't use that.
Right.
You shouldn't use that. They don't know.
Yeah.
Drug interactions is probably their main concern because they don't know. Because they're like, they're not taught it. It's like food. They're not taught food, and they're not taught the endocannabinoid system. It's only the most important system in the body. Both.
And food is what you put in, every day at every meal.
Right. So Chela's plant-based counseling
supportive
wellness coaching. We are finding seniors of all sorts that find benefit in a 1:1 tincture, and Dr. Russo in our interview discussed the 1-to-1 ratio being a good starting point for many things, for many ailments. There is science out there, folks. There is discussion. There are studies going on. There is actually the first study that has been completed of smokable cannabis for PTSD. We reported here, Dr. Sue Sicily. There's now, the door has been opened. We need to make some changes up in Congress, but it looks like those research bills are going to make their way through.
Everybody wants more research.
With bipartisan support.
Everybody wants more research.
It looks like it's very possible the States Act will see action in the Senate. You see a bipartisan, which means one person on the other side joining in Tulsi Gabbard's bill. She's in the the afterburn this week. I'll play a little snippet from CNN, those bastards. But we'll get her on her bill. It's happening. It's happening up on the Hill. Something is going to pop. We're going to get taxes taken care of, probably banking, because the banksters want their marijuana money. And careful, you don't know where that poker is. I'm getting the wrap up signal from off camera. Yes, it is time. We're at our hour, and I'm well elevated, so I could go on for another 10 minutes wrapping up the show. So subscribe, get notifications, give us a thumbs up, share the broadcast. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere, everybody. This is Reefer Revolution Live. We do this every Sunday. This is the first hour. We're going to come right back with the afterburn for blunt commentary on marijuana and the mainstream media from across the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, and all the continents, the North American continent and beyond in the afterburn. So stay tuned. We will be right back in about 60 seconds to give YouTube a chance to reboot. But stay in the chat. Keep talking. We will be right back, guys. Thanks for watching Reefer Revolution Live. See you in a minute.